Have you ever wondered why there's so many climate groups? Have you ever wondered why there's so many pro-Palestine groups? How they can all organise so many protests on a weekly basis, sometimes even on a daily basis? Have you wondered where they get their money from? I mean, you have to have money to have so many protests. You need to have full-time people, you have expenses, you need to print placards, you need to print posters. You have expenses. It costs money to have protests at this sort of frequency. How do they do it? Well, US Senator Shelley Capito has been looking at one of these so-called climate groups to see where they get their funding from and what do they spend it on. Let's watch her press conference together.
So my young staffer, who's very bright, and I see him over there, Adam Pack, followed the money. And the money is from the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. So in the name of green and environmental justice, there's over $40 billion that are going to be granted out through the EPA. So with this great research that was done, what was discovered that in December, the EPA granted $50 million to an organization called Climate Justice Allaince. So we went to the website of Climate Justice Allaince. This is what we found on the website, that our taxpayer dollars are going to organizations such as this. This, at the bottom, is a picture of the bulldozer that went through the fence when Hamas attacked Israel on October the 7th. They have a rendering on their website. It says decolonize Palestine, and it has a picture of that same bulldozer going through that fence. If you dig deeper, they want to defund the police, defund the military, either them or their affiliates want to have very radical, drastic initiatives that I think are anti-American. And they're certainly anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. So the Biden administration doesn't seem to care. $50 million in December. Who knows how much more in the future, and other like groups, because there are other associated groups with this group. There's no inspector general for EPA to follow the money because they don't care. Because all they care about is the mission, the climate mission, no matter what the radical ideas that are associated with the groups. So then you could ask yourself, is this group really going to be funding climate, cleaning up the water and cleaning up the soil and cleaning up the air? Or are they going to be funding things like the protests they had in Hart just several weeks ago, where several of them were arrested? So follow the money. We're going to be doing that in the Environment and Public Works Committee. That's where the derivation of this was. And I find it rather startling to me that the EPA is not doing, and the administration are not doing any better research as to where our American taxpayer dollars are going.
So there you go. Biden's administration is literally funding the enemy with US taxpayers' money. A little bit like what they were doing with the Prevent program. The money that should have been spent on de-radicalization was actually being spent on extremist groups, just for the sake of appeasing. They were spending the money on extremists instead of de-radicalization. And now you can see why we never hear from people who have a different opinion, who are not part of that echo chamber of global alarmists, because they wouldn't get any funding.